it funny? You talk to me and I sound like an idiot. I look like an idiot. Sit here and I eat Eggo waffles while I'm doing an interview for my business. But when it comes down to business and you see the shit that I output, it's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. No, I don't think you sound like an idiot. I just think that you guys are just real people. That's all, and that's what we are. So.
Yeah. Now you joined up in something special, Patrick, and I really appreciate it.
You know, I think so. I'm pretty happy with it. I think we will be successful with it, and I just feel like the knowledge gap was way too big to go through alone. So, you know.
Well, I'm here for you.
To try to stretch it.
My Amazon speakers are screwing with us again.
Okay, that's probably better.
You're right. That is better. So congratulations. Let's start at first place first. Congratulations. I'm imagining by now you've made it through all 3 days of the workshop.
I probably have 2 hours left on day 3.
What do you think so far?
I think it's great stuff. It's there's just a real wealth of knowledge, and I think the knowledge gap between your standard contractor who tries doing federal work and one who's trained has got to be enormous, you know.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Sean.
This is the other guy who's going to be contacting you. So.
Gotcha. You said Steve?
Yes.
Steven. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Hi,
I'm
Steven.
starting the process, so I'm working on it.
Okay, so you're just getting into it, or you're at
Yeah, I
Steve's?
just started like the first parts of day 1. So,
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, if you're running into any questions, you just pick up the phone and call me, or however
both
you
got
guys want to do
questions,
it.
but I'm sure he'll pass it on to you. So.
Great. Yeah. So you're talking about the gap of information.
Yeah, it's so like all of these little nuances of federal construction and federal law and all that is so, I don't know, how in the heck else would you know it? And just like in the class, either you or Doug says, I mean, it's not something anybody knows unless you've been through this training.
Sure.
Which I think is great. I mean, it's just fantastic that the training is available to us and that I found it. So I'm pretty pleased with it. So.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so you asked questions about last night. You said, or this morning, you said I have questions on BidTracker. All right. So let's talk about one of my favorite topics, which is BidTracker.
I just want to kind of get a flavor for what the, like what all those pre-solicitations and sources sought and that kind of stuff, and then give me some examples of which jobs you can see that are like, okay, this is the job I'm gonna jump onto because.
Okay, well, first of all, I can never tell you right from BidTracker that this is a job I'm going to jump onto, okay? What I look at BidTracker as is these are a whole bunch of opportunities. Look, the government, if you look at all this list right here, somewhere in here, government's going to be spending a lot of money. And I want to be in between where the government needs it done and the guys who are ultimately going to do it. Okay, so that's my first thing. That's all I'm waking up and doing. And all I'm doing is I'm starting from right to left. Because on the right-hand side is the date that it's due. If the job was due yesterday, I'm not interested because it's not available. And if the job's due today, I might not be interested unless, of course, it's an RFQ, right? Because we talk about no risk for getting in an RFQ bid anyway, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you might want to just, now, how do I identify the RFQs really quickly? Well, one of the easiest ways to identify an RFQ is, I had you asked me how I was doing earlier, and I have an eye problem. It started several years ago, and it sucks. And my right eye needs a corneal replacement, but I can't have a corneal replacement until I achieve some healing stuff. And so my vision in my right eye is about as good as maybe 5 fingers from here. My left eye was pretty much unaffected, but the issue that caused my problem in my right eye in the first place is present in my left eye, but not active. And so I'm doing all kinds of things. Well, I had a bad night last night, so I'm having to, I always keep this just in case. I have good days. Today's just not one. Okay, so, but what I'm looking for over on the left-hand side over here is a Q. See how this one says an R?
Yep.
Okay, that's an RFP, but if you come down here, you'll see some with Q's in it. Right there. See that?
Yep, the Q.
That's almost 100% going to be a request for quote.
Yep.
Okay? And so you just come through and you, man, for damn sure, click all the ones that have a Q in them. Okay? So just come through there and click all the ones that have a Q in them. There's one right there. Okay. And look at that. It's a 25 to 100,000. What is it? It's replacement New York animal import. HVAC replacement. Dude. Dude. Bid that job.
Well, I can until I get my cage code, but I'm working on it.
Oh.
Your wife told me I gotta wait.
Hey, dude, call Kevin and tell him you want to bid that job.
Just have him bid it for me. And I can sub to him.
Who knows more about HVAC, you or him?
Me?
No shit, Sherlock. Okay, but anyway, that's what you're doing. You're just going through here and clicking sync, 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 sync. Okay, whether it's a sources sought, whether it's any of the other types of solicitations, we're here. Let's talk about it. But okay, the government puts out. I'm gonna leave that up there. The government puts out sources sought, right? And all that means is you got 8As and 8As and SDVs calling in to say, hey, government, we can do that, set it aside, okay? Well, you're not any of that shit, so don't even worry about sources sought. That shit will all figure its way out. What you worry about is solicitations right now. Solicitations that are available to be bid that you can be turning in bids on, all right? Now, are you in the stage of BidTracker? Are you looking for solicitations that are set aside or sources sought or whatever? No, just click sync. Because how long does it take to click sync, Patrick?
Not very.
Less than a second, okay?
Yeah.
Then it downloads the shit in the background. How long does that take?
30 seconds.
Okay? So then, when you're going through and you're seeing that jobs are due on, the 12th, the 13th, the 14th, the 15th, the 16th, in other words, BidTracker is creating your bid schedule, okay? The first 2 actions that you took, how much of your time did it take? Nothing. Okay?
Right.
So now go into those dates that are due next Tuesday and open up the 3 jobs that are in that folder, okay, because you clicked sync on them, and then open up this job, which has a bunch of files in it, okay, the plans, the specs, the blah, 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 okay, and then open up the solicitation document and look at the scope and go, because you don't know what the scope is, it's a surprise. It's, hey, open up the Happy Meal toy, what's in there, okay? Now you look at it, you already know you've identified it as a no-risk contract when you clicked sync in the first place, okay? And then just look at the scope and say, do I need to be involved in this thing? How long is that going to take? That's going to take 3 minutes, 4 minutes for you to just kind of generally dissolve, what is this thing? Should I get involved? Okay? If the answer is yes, print that motherfucker out and let's bid a job. Okay? If the answer is no, close that shit down, go to the next one, open it up, look at the files, and spend 3 or 4 minutes. Okay? The main thing is, BidTracker's, the system that I developed is going to give you a bunch of opportunities to look at. How are you getting work right now? Hey, how's that working for you, Patrick? People calling, going, give me a bid. Give me a bid on this 2-ton package unit. Okay? You and I would never have been having this conversation if that lifestyle is all unicorns and, pixie dust.
True. So I have a question about that job, that one that you told me to bid that job. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to do it. However, there is a huge discrepancy between what is there and what the government is asking for there to be there. So what I'm looking at is like, okay, they've got a 300,000 furnace in there, and they want to put in a heat and air conditioning, but there's no idea what kind of building it is, how much air conditioning they need in there. It says to do it, spec it to size to work properly. So,
are you using this example specifically, or are you making something up?
This example specifically, because I looked over these documents, and it's very, very gray. So I've seen.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Go ahead. In the real world, when you're going to be asked to do a scope of work, and someone says, "Oh, by the way, I'll never forget the first time I seen it." They now have HVAC systems that have a mixing box for fresh air coming into homes, because they're making homes so damn airtight that they're bringing in fresh air. That mixing box has to be installed, and the first time you came across that, somebody had to read the fucking instructions, right?
Yeah.
When you know you're going to be responsible for something and you don't know exactly how it works or how long that shit's going to take, what do you do with your price naturally?
Goes up, of course.
Are you getting my picture here?
So basically, you put a number out there, and then I'm just kind of curious, like, you end up getting it, and I see areas where Doug does this lot where he's like, okay, there's a huge discrepancy here. You can't do that. So, like, I'm just trying to figure out, like, strategically, or do you get the job and then work on strategy?
Sometimes it starts when we see it in BidTracker, and sometimes it starts when we're going through the plans and specs. And it's different for everything. But that you're asking a question based on 30 years experience, and you're trying to say, hey, on my first job, I found an example of something that took Doug 30 years to figure out. And the likelihood that that's happened, yes, that could happen. Is it likely? Probably not. But because it's all new to you, you're not sure how to adjust one way or the other.
Yep. That's exactly it. It's, I mean, obviously, they're budget's showing 25 to 50,000, I'm thinking it's going to be more than that for me to, to want to put my.
Then put it in before. Do not take their budget that they publicly put on there and let that have any headspace in your head. I have turned in jobs that said 25 to 100,000. I've turned in bids for 250 for it. I've turned in jobs that said 25 to 100 that I turned it in for $19,000. Okay? I've had jobs all over the place. Do not take their estimate and let that have any headspace. You bid it as you see it.
Okay. It's a different way of thinking, obviously. We know.
Let some other idiot bid that thing for $35,000 and let him lose his ass, and now he's not a competitor next year. Did you see the number of federal contractors I sent you last night?
Yeah, I was looking at that. I'm just trying to. I still haven't figured it out. I mean, it shows that there was 22,000, but then on the next screen it shows there's 787. But I don't know what that all means. So.
Look, I'm just telling you, over time, I've figured it out that it's around 25,000. Okay.
Right. Yep.
But the ones that are actually doing something with it, it's significantly less.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
Okay, so I got a question on that job that we were looking at the animal
Hit
show. So who came up with this this package? And they put it on the site. We're going to replace.
Yeah. Let me that's a great question. Let me tell you how that happens. That's a super good question, Steve. We the people, you, me, and everybody else, tax-paying USA citizens, business owners, we the people. Our government takes our money and turns you into a criminal if you don't put money into that system. Yay, democracy. Okay? So then we, the people, decide how that money gets spent with Congress. Congress puts together a budget, and they've got infrastructure. That budget has to solve certain problems that we, the people, have told them to solve. That budget is used to maintain buildings that support the mission. What buildings support the mission? Well, the IRS building supports the mission. Federal courthouses, United States post offices, Army barracks, Coast Guard stations, Air Force bases, Environmental Protection Agency, Bureau of Land Management, Bureau of Indian Affairs, National Park Service. All these agencies, there's 500 of them, and they own buildings. And Congress puts together the budget to maintain those buildings. Are you with me? Okay. Now, who gets the budget? It turns out it's not the contracting officer, the person in charge of managing the contract. Turns out it's a maintenance guy at the building. He's given, you have $500,000 to maintain this gymnasium. He's given a budget. And if he don't spend the budget, the money gets taken away. So he's got to justify his reason for existing. So he goes out and says, I need a new gymnasium floor. Okay? But he can't spend the money. He can't call you and say, hey, dude, I'll give you $30,000. Come in here and change my gymnasium floor out. Do you think we give Joe, the gymnasium manager guy, the authority to spend that kind of money?
Yeah, no.
No. He is not trained in spending public funds. He's trained in maintaining a gymnasium. Do you see the difference? Do you see the logic?
Yeah, I understand. I mean, I can see the bureaucracy in the. But going back to this job, no, we bid it, we put it in, and it's like, oh, this thing is undersized. It doesn't work for garbage.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
So Joe, the building management guy, decides he wants to replace what are we talking about? Like a 3-ton or a 6-ton, 12-ton package unit on the roof or something?
No, this is it's called a modine ducted furnace. So it's a gas furnace.
Okay, so a gas furnace. So somebody needs, some XBTU gas furnace somewhere. So he goes out there and makes that decision. What he does is he takes a budget and he goes out and he makes some phone calls. Hey, how much does this stuff cost? And he gets an idea in his head using government estimators, okay? So he knows how much money in his budget that he has to allocate to this job. Because the federal government cannot put a job on the street unless the money is already allocated. You never have to argue with the government about money. It's already been allocated. Okay? So he puts that together. Then, all of a sudden, the contracting officer gets the allocation and the package to put out for bid. So that goes out on the street, and you and I and everybody else sees it. Okay? And then you and I and everybody else that's smart looks at it and goes, their numbers are fucked up. So we bid it as we see it. So what does that tell the government when they say, hey, this should be $25,000 and all the bids come in at 50 to 60? What does that tell the government?
Yeah, they were off somewhere.
The market has spoken.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. Okay. Yep, I'm here.
So that's how that works.
So this guy probably had like a capital outlay plan. He said he called somebody and they said, hey,
I don't care. I don't care what he had.
Yep.
He can
That's
put
how
any
he came.
number he can put out there anything he wants. Maybe his brother-in-law said, dude, I could do that thing for $35,000. Who fucking knows?
It's him that's coming up with the idea of the number.
Yeah.
It's either him or it's one or two things. It's either him or a government estimator. In other words, it's either him talking to somebody
Okay.
or it's government estimators.
Okay. So they had or somebody came up with this way lowball or this wrong, basically, product to put in. And we look at it and say, well, this isn't going to work, but we're going to have to do something that is going to work, and our prices has to reflect that.
Yes, and you can say that in your proposal. You can say, hey, you guys said, 115,000 BTU per blah, blah, blah. Isn't going to cut it. And here's why. What you really need is, 250,000 BTU per blah, blah, blah. And it's going to take, and it's going to take 1-inch gas lines versus 3/4-inch gas lines. And that means more infrastructure. And that means this. And that, you can say that in there.
Does that happen on our bid, or does that happen?
You can say it in your bid. You can say that in your bid.
Okay. I get it.
So there are not a lot of highly detailed people that are putting these numbers like, hey, we need to replace this with this. It's not like they were spec engineered exactly.
When's the last time you went to a government office and you went, oh my God, this is modern efficiency. You guys are all the best employees for our government that I could ever see.
Yeah, I get you. That was just a question, I'm just like.
Well, that was just an answer.
So we're dealing with the bureaucratic way of doing things, and that's why this is difficult to do, but where it can make a lot more income doing it.
You got a moral issue with that?
I don't know yet. I don't think so. I think it's just a different way of looking. We've been trained for 30 years going one way, and now we're looking at it a different way,
That's why Patrick and I have the conversations that we have. On my side of the world, things are more fucking fun.
Yeah. And that's where we're trying to learn that, so we got to get it right in our head. It may not happen like that, but I think it's coming. So.
Oh, have a few more conversations with me. I'll bring you over to the dark side.
Passing off the pot here.
Yeah. No, I think it's like Steve said, it's a different. Well, like you guys say, it's what will the market bear, not cost plus overhead and profit.
Hell yeah.
Understood. Yeah, I just got to get my cage code and I'll be all set to go. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, just be patient. It'll come, man. I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day. I tell people, just start bid one job a week. Let's just start there and get in the process of moving things forward,
Yep.
And then when you're ready to ramp things up, and then, we'll start getting into it. But yeah, you can pick up the phone and call me anytime. I'll give you a link to these Zooms. I love to have these conversations, and I'll be sarcastic in every single one of them, because here's what I've learned about smart people. Smart people don't like to look dumb. And you can't get into my class, you can't afford my class, afford the time to go through my class if you're dumb. Okay? And so I'm sarcastic with smart people because smart people, when you're sarcastic with them, their brain goes, uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. Okay? And so I teach with sarcasm, not to hurt people's feelings, to really lodge that shit right in there. It's like getting hit in the head with information by a bullet.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And I think we can probably do business here. I'm excited. This is going to be a very different but very welcome change, I think, for my business.
I'm here for you, man.
Yep. Yeah, we're tired of losing money. Had enough of that for several lifetimes. Fighting with homeowners for $100.
Yeah, I don't argue with anybody over $100. I don't argue with anybody over $1,000.
Yeah, you gotta get me a bill on that so we can.
Yeah, someday I'll get around to it. Not gonna be today, partner.
Okay.
Anything else I can do for you?
Just trying to think here. Let me zip through my BidTracker over here, or through your website. Let me see here. Doggone thing. I want to make sure that I don't have anything else in here.
No, that's okay. Dude, you got, according to my watch, you've got about 4 hours, 38 minutes left to come up with the rest of your questions.
Okay. So we got the BidTracker, we got tripartite, we got paperwork, we got the $100,000 letter there. What's the consulting USB drive and the client binding profile? Anything you can tell me on?
So, in the original workshop when I was teaching, let's have a conversation about that, because I've never done this on camera before. So you're about to be a YouTube star, Patrick. I'm gonna cut this part into a video.
Oh, great! That's all I need.
Oh, for fuck's sake, you're better looking than I am. It'll work just fine.
I don't think so.
So let's talk about the consulting USB for a minute. In the real workshop, when we were doing it live, I had my own head trash as to would people join the membership program or not. Okay? And so I came up with this little USB drive that had a bunch of stuff from the membership site, the 100K letter, daily reports, job files, stuff that I knew people after watching the workshop for 2 days would want to see. And I'd say, if you join now, remember I told you that in the first conversation we had that at the end of this thing there isn't going to be a if you buy now, but I did it in the live workshop. If you join now, you get this consulting USB drive. And but the answer to that is, ultimately I moved that consulting USB drive to the membership site. So if you want to go in there and look at all these things that I used to give away to people that joined the night of before we went to dinner, that consulting USB drive is on the membership site, and you can see in there. Now let's talk. There is some things that are in there that are worth talking about that are not covered in the workshop. So tell me when you're looking at the list of things that are in there.
Okay, so we've got New Orleans Lift Station, Corpus
Okay.
Christi.
Let's stop right there. Let's take them one by one. The New Orleans Lift Station, it was a job. It was a job where I was a superintendent. And on that job, I was living in New Orleans, going to this job site every day and running the job. And the job was, not that it matters, but the job was pipe bursting. So you've got underground 8-inch sewer pipes. They get cracked and fucked up over time, terracotta, that kind of stuff. You bring a big bullet through the pipes that's pulling new pipe in place, so it bursts the pipe as it's pulling the new pipe in place. Miles of that all around the Naval Air Station down there in Belle Chase, as I recall. So from lift station to lift station. You're familiar with lift stations?
Yeah.
Lots of money in shit. Lots of money in shit. So we go down there, I do the job, but I'm the superintendent. Those are the days when I'm still, going on jobs every day. And my project manager that I worked for was an in-between between me and my dad. So I didn't even get, my dad owned the company, I was working for the project manager was running multiple jobs, and I'm on this job. That guy was a guy named Jerry Hallmark, and I don't talk about him very much because I seriously hope that he rots in hell somewhere. But he called me every day, 4 times a day, making sure I knew what a piece of shit I was. Because I wasn't getting this done, wasn't getting this done, wasn't getting this done. In other words, he was the tough guy love in my world that was turning me from a boy into a man in federal contracts. Okay? And he was really good at that role. Well, what resulted because of his constant barragement of put downs on me was, either I break or I fight back, right? I fought back. When you go into the daily reports in that job and you read them, they are brilliant. 20 years later, 30 years later, whatever, they're brilliant. I mean, you can see every single day the struggles I was going through, and I documented it against the government. This is where the government delayed me here. This is where the government delayed me here. And oh, by the way, we've asked 14 times for you to do A, B, C, D, and E, and the government still hasn't gotten back to us on that. In other words, he made me document that job in such a way that at the end of the job, when we said, hey, you guys owe us $50,000 for delays, they just paid it. Okay? But I'm proud of all the documents in that job file all these years later, but really it was some asshole that I worked for that was making me do all that. So now you've got all the letters that were written to the government on that job. You've got all the daily reports on that job. You've got all the submittals on that. You've got one fully functional job that Sean Reitmeyer could smack my signature on and say, dude, that's how you document a job. Okay?
All right.
What's the next one?
Corpus Christi wash rack.
Okay, that's the job I talk about on day 2 of the workshop where I got the $35,000 or $40,000 change order and it only cost me $5,000. Yep. That's all the paperwork associated with that job.
Yep, I remember hearing that. That was day 2, right?
And that was the end of day 2, yeah.
Yeah. And then we got a version of the $100,000 letter.
There's multiple ways to use the $100,000 letter. So, I'm going to edit this part out, but I want you to explain to me what you think the $100,000 letter is for.
$100,000 letter is to build value around your budget and the government's estimate to do a project, which brings out a lot of items would not see.
Okay,
that they
so
wouldn't see in their estimate.
Okay, I'm going to explain it a little bit different for you, and then I'm going to ask you again.
Essentially just trying to build value.
Okay, I'm going to explain it a different way, and then I want you to tell me which way you like better as the explanation on a $100,000 letter, your way or my way. Okay?
Got it.
Our government has construction jobs that they need to get done. Shit, you just saw a whole lot of them in BidTracker. They got this job, this job, this job, and this job, and this job. And so you, the unknowing, dumb contractor just rolling in off the street, looking at all the opportunities the government's put out, you kind of zero in on this job right here. And you turn that job in for $150,000. And it just so happens when the government starts opening up their bids and shit, holy shit, you're the only bidder. Okay, I got other. Can I pause this for 60 seconds?
Yes, you can.
So what I'm getting details so far, it's not real detailed work, they just throw it out there, whoever bites.
Yep.
Do it. You look at it, you have to take the place of engineering. They didn't put you something like, hey, you don't want to speak on 180.
Yeah.
But that was that. That's why the price comes in on that. Engineering or
But they were given $75,000
yeah.
to spend.
So somehow they kind of still see like
And if you do start drilling this stuff out, I'm going to close this door just to make the noise down. You can close this door too, which is even, does that make sense? Okay, ready?
Yep.
Alright, so you walk into this job and you bid it for $150K, and lo and behold, for whatever reason, you're the only bidder. Alright? But the government's budget was $100,000. They went to their engineers and they went to their budget guys and those estimators, and they put together a $100,000 estimate. And so you fell into this trap of the 15% over the government estimate. They could not give you this job. Hey Pat, we loved it that you bid on the job. Sorry man, we can't award it to you. You're the only bidder and you're over the 15%. And you go, hold on a minute. What is this contracting officer's job?
Spend that money.
Get these jobs allocated to a contractor. What is the hurdle? The hurdle is the budget guys said $100K. The CO didn't say $100K. CO doesn't know what money means. Okay? So now all of a sudden this letter comes into play. Hey CO, take this letter, go to your budget guys, and ask them, now look, can you see me in camera? Ask them. Are you hearing me? Okay. Ask them, did you include all these things in this number? And they go, oh, I get it. No, we didn't include these things in the number. And you know what? If you included these numbers, it might be like 140K or something. You're giving the contracting officer a tool to go back to the guys and have them raise their budget. Because what's the contracting officer trying to do?
Get the work done.
Get it done. Now all of a sudden, we're in the realm of negotiation. Now, what's the purpose of the $100,000 letter?
To get them to bring their budget to where it needs to be.
To give the contracting officer a tool to go to the budget people and adjust the budget up so that because the contracting officer didn't have any rhyme or reason other than they're looking at one rule. I can't fucking do anything with you, buddy.
Yep.
You're helping them help you.
So it's a tool for them, and that does make perfect sense. Does make perfect sense.
Okay, so now we know what the $100,000 letter for. But let me tell you, now that we've had this discussion, one day I'm sitting in one of my clients' office, and it doesn't matter for the story, but he's a kid. He's like 23 years old. We're in his basement in his house. He's hired me to fly up to his house and bid jobs with him. So we're sitting there drinking coffee, looking at some jobs, and there's this job that's an RFP. I can't remember if it's an RFP or an RFQ. I'm not sure it matters for the story. But the contracting officer wrote back and said, hey, we want to award this job to you. And he writes back, holy shit, I need to change my price. And I'm telling him, just change your price. And it was a small job. I think it was to run 2,000 feet of fiber optic cable between 2 points. And he turned his bid in for 19 and wanted to raise his bid to 24. And he gets off the phone and he goes, I want to change my price. I said, you just write him back and you say 24. He goes, no, I want to justify it. I go, you don't have to justify it. You just tell him 24. There is no, because I need to scratch my ass on Tuesdays. And he goes, okay, well, if you had to explain the difference between the 19 and 24, how would you do it? And I said, well, shit, motherfucker, I'd use the $100,000 letter. You just go in there and pull 3 things out of there and say, we didn't fully consider this, and now that's how I'm justifying going from 19 to 24. Okay, so there are some ideas in there, you know, that you can use elements of the $100,000 letter in different ways that it wasn't designed for what it's worth. Okay?
Yep.
So, consulting USB drive. Keep going.
A nice letter written to Sean Rittmeyer from the Parks Service. Can you get one for yourself that's even better?
Yeah, well, hell yeah, it is. But yeah, the idea is every single job, see if you can get, you know, some kind of recommendation letter. You're not going to hit the ball out of the park every time, but that's the goal. Go for it.
And that's so that you build so if you get a recommendation letter written by one of these agencies, do you have to download it into your files, or do they put it into your files for recommendation?
That letter only exists in my files. I mean, I'm sure it's in the actual file of the job somewhere, you know, where they keep the Ark of the Covenant.
It seems like Doug talked about a place where they might have...
Oh, you're talking about PPIRS and CPARS.
Yes.
Yeah, they do keep that. But, dude, screw that. I'll tell you this. I've been in this business for decades. I have never, not even one time, ever, never been into PPIRS and seen what my reviews are. Don't care. Just keep going. Just keep trying to get letters like that. And when you're bidding jobs, you just use the applicable letters.
So then you just keep your own file of them and slide them in there when it's needed.
That's what I do.
Got it. Next one.
Yep, let's go.
If you have a subcontractor who is a sole proprietor and self-performing, he does not have to be paid in accordance with the Davis-Bacon Act, nor does he have to fill out certified payrolls. He does, however, have to fill in this form. There's a certified payroll form for a sole proprietor.
Yes, there is. Is it self-explanatory, or you want me to go into it?
That's self-explanatory to me. We've done government work before, just not federal government work. So.
Okay.
Okay. From time to time, I am asked if we have a copy of a final release. Here you go. Download final release. What's the final release?
When the federal government issues final payment, they want a final release prior to issuing payment.
Okay.
Give it to them.
So that's just, all right, got it.
And they may have their own form. I'm just giving you one just in cases.
I have a question now that I'm thinking about it. Warranties.
1 year bumper to bumper.
Okay, 1 year parts and labor.
Yep.
That's what we provide in the private sector as well. So, some have requested, how can we track all the bids we have sent in versus what they went for? What's open, etc. Try this. Download federal award tracking.
I stole that from a client, and it's cool. Use it,
Okay.
Don't use it, don't care.
It shows you what the job went for.
It doesn't show you anything. You got to input.
Right.
Use it, don't use it, up to you.
Yeah. Okay, if you don't have a filing system for dealing with tons of federal construction paperwork, try this filing system. Dropbox. You don't understand how to use that? Call me directly or use YouTube University. It doesn't say that, but I...
Yeah, so remind me again what we're talking about. Remind me again what line item we're on.
What? Okay, so it's the Dropbox federal filing. If you don't have a
filing system. Yeah, filing system. So, look, this isn't going to matter when you're first starting. You're going to be dealing with the onesie twosies and that kind of shit. And most of guys of our stature, we can do that in our head, you know. But when you start getting 20 federal contracts, you know, and things start progressing over a career, you got to develop a way to manage the paperwork, okay? And so we came up with a filing system that every piece of paper was associated with a number, okay? So if it was contracts, bonds, and insurance, that was -10. If it was correspondence to the government, that was -20. If it was correspondence from the government, that was -21. And we would literally write that on the bottom of the piece of paper as it was going into the file, okay? And so that's what this is it's giving you numerical categories for every type of paper. Subcontract agreements are -75. You know, and that way, if Steven goes to the physical file and pulls a paper out of the file, everybody else in the office knows exactly where that goes back into the filing system. Okay? Could I do that digitally today? Absolutely. Would I still use the numbering system? Yes, I would.
Yep. Okay, and then your resume, is that just...
Here's my position on my resume. One of the federal acquisition regulations I teach in the workshop is Federal Acquisition Regulation 15.305. Off the top of my head, I think it's 2A or something like that. But the deal is that the government does work with companies, and companies have people, okay? And different people have different experience. So look, if you want to, on the first 5 jobs that you bid, include my resume as part of your package to get the job, fucking do it. But don't do it for every job from here to the end of time, because, you know, there's other people coming into the business that might want to use my resume to help them get their first job, you know, and I don't want my resume showing up on 15 bids, you know, that are going into the government, because then now all of a sudden I got to face Department of Justice to explain how the fuck that happened. Okay?
Got it. Okay, so we've been asked from time to time how to qualify a subcontractor. Here's one way. Subcontractor qualification form.
Yeah, somebody asked me one time in the last 10 years if I could come up with a solution for that, and so I did. That is not something that I used back in the day, and I don't know why I put it in there as the consulting USB drive, but apparently I did. But it was because somebody asked me to. Use it, don't care.
Okay. You get into a situation where you need to document costs associated with a change request. You are confused. Try making something like this, which was successful. Tampa REA.
So REA stands for Request for Equitable Adjustment. So this is a big long document that I made by hand and turned it into the government, explaining all the extra costs that we were going to have over, you know, X amount of pages. And so someday you might want to ask the government for extra money, and there may or may not be some shit in there that you can use conceptually.
Got it. Okay, some solicitations will require a technical proposal. You can edit this document, it's on Dropbox, and then send to me to review. Keep in mind the document was written for a specific job and needs to be edited to make sense for your company and specific job. GCExperts recommend the final document be submitted to all RFPs and RFQs because it meets the requirements on past performance questionnaire that accompanies most RFPs and RFQs.
Self-explanatory.
So you submit this
with your bid, and it says, pick me, I'm the best.
I like it.
Well, it's not GC idiots.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Excellent.
That's my brain in words.
Okay. So then that's it. That's it. That sums up.
Isn't it funny? You talk to me and I sound like an idiot. I look like an idiot. I sit here and I eat Eggo waffles while I'm doing an interview for my business. But when it comes down to business and you see the shit that I output, it's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. No, I don't think you sound like an idiot. I just think that you guys are just real people. That's all, and that's what we are. So.
Yeah. Now you joined up in something special, Patrick, and I really appreciate it.
You know, I think so. I'm pretty happy with it. I think we will be successful with it, and I just feel like the knowledge gap was way too big to go through alone. So, you know.
Well, I'm here for you.
To try to stretch it. But yeah, so I think that's it. That's all I need.
All right, brother. I'm here for you when you need me.
Okay.
I'm going back to Eggo waffles and coffee.
All righty.
We'll see you.
We'll see ya.